Penguin Random House presents Ambedkar's Preamble, a secret history of the Constitution of India by Akash Singh Rathore. Read by Denzil. The Constitution of India. Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. I think the drafting committee would accept it, though not openly, at least secretly. Naziruddin Ahmed to the Constituent Assembly, 25th November, 1949. Preface. Anatomy of a Secret. On 17th November 1949, Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, chairman of the drafting committee, launched the proceedings of the Constituent Assembly of India by moving that the Constitution, as settled by the Assembly, be passed. The transcripts recording these proceedings stated in bracket that there were cheers from the members of the Assembly upon hearing the motion. Dr Ambedkar's motion was the beginning of the third reading of the draft Constitution by the Assembly. It had, over the course of the previous year, passed through 2 readings already. This was now to be the final round. Naziruddin Ahmed, a Constituent Assembly member representing West Bengal, had persistently been a staunch and vocal critic of the draft Constitution ever since it first made its appearance in the Assembly on 4th November 1948. At the time of the first reading, the text of the draft, he asserted, contained a number of errors, anomalies, redundancies and repetitions. He squarely placed the blame on the drafting committee for these problems. These outward criticisms of the draft constitution were fueled by an inward suspicion of the drafting committee itself. Beneath the surface of Ahmed's critique of the text lay his frustrations over the process of its drafting. Ahmed believed that the drafting committee, led by Dr Ambedkar, had engaged in a drafting process that lacked transparency, making changes to the draft constitution without the knowledge or consent of the Constituent Assembly. He made his private suspicion a public accusation in the Constituent Assembly, enumerating grammatical and syntactical changes that were there for everyone to see. On 25th November 1949, he quipped, "This is only a punctuation amendment which, I think, the drafting committee would accept, though not openly, at least secretly." The evidence that Ahmed produced was primarily to do with syntax. The insinuation, however, extended to semantics, to meaning. Was the drafting committee engaged in a secret process of altering the meaning of constitutional words and phrases? Several others in the Constituent Assembly thought so too. As the transcripts reveal, members K. Santhanam from Madras, R. Divakar from Bombay, and Maulana Hazrat Mohani from the United Provinces could often be heard grumbling on this point in the Assembly. Santhanam. The drafting committee, I think, illegitimately converted themselves into a constitution committee. They have taken upon themselves the responsibility of changing some vital provisions adopted in the open house by this Assembly. Divakar. The drafting committee and its chairman not only drafted the decisions of the Constituent Assembly, but In my humble opinion, it has gone far beyond mere drafting. I may say it has reviewed the decisions, it has revised some of the decisions, and possibly recast a number of them. Mohani. Ambedkar has gone out of his way. He has not confirmed to the objectives resolution, and I request all of you to see what he had done. Instead of drafting the constitution in conformity with the objectives resolution, he wants to make the objectives resolution conform to what he is proposing now. This allegedly clandestine process is one of the secrets that this history of the preamble unravels. But it is not the only one. Authorship of the preamble. Who wrote the preamble of the Constitution of India? If that sounds like the sort of question you might expect to find in a Union Public Service Commission or UPSC coaching manual, that's because it is. But the answer that such manuals invariably offer is wrong. The authorship of the preamble is shrouded in a cloak of mystery. Unlike for the Constituent Assembly, we have no verbatim transcripts for the drafting committee meetings where all sections and articles of the Constitution were presented, discussed, dissected, debated, modified, and finalized. Instead of transcripts, we have minutes. And in those crucial drafting committee meetings, when the preamble was up for discussion and finalization, we don't even have all of the minutes. Even worse, the various narratives that we do have today, inside views by those who attended the drafting committee meetings, contemporary statements or writings by Constituent Assembly members not privy to the drafting committee meetings, or speculative accounts by historians or other familiar with the drafting process, all seem to disagree on the details. There are 4 competing narratives about the authorship of the preamble. The first, which for the purpose of convenience we can call the UPSC coaching narrative, is that Jawaharlal Nehru was essentially responsible for the preamble. It was on the basis of his objectives resolution that the Constituent Assembly unanimously adopted the aims and objectives of the Mohani. Through this option open to question. The second is a sophomoric view of sorts because it mixes advanced knowledge about the history of constitution drafting in India with prejudice against Dr. Ambedkar. In this account, it is B.N. Rao who is credited with authorship. It was in his role as constitutional advisor that he was tasked with putting together a full, working draft constitution that would form the basis of the drafting committee's future labor. The third account attributes authorship to the drafting committee as a collective whole, joyfully adding that each of its members played a part. While this makes for a pleasant historical narrative, useful for evoking that warm and fuzzy national sentiment that we seek to read into the collaborative origins of the Indian Republic, it is believed by the facts. As T.T. Krishnamachari, a member of the drafting committee and the author of memoirs and audio-recorded interviews that offer an inside look, himself detailed, out of the 7 original members of the drafting committee, 1 died, D.P. Khaitan, 1 was away in the United States, Krishnamachari, was referring to B.N. Rao here, who was not actually a member. 1 was engaged in the affairs of state, N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar, and 2, Muhammad Sadullah and N. Madhava Rao, could not be in Delhi owing to ill health. In short, Krishnamachari claimed that 5 of the key persons actually had either little or no contribution in the drafting process. So it happened ultimately that the burden of drafting the constitution fell on Dr. Ambedkar, and I have no doubt that we are grateful to him for having achieved this task in a manner which is undoubtedly commendable. As far as the drafting and finalization of the preamble was concerned, there were only 4 members present in the early meetings, and only 3 in the final meeting. 1, of course, was Dr. Ambedkar himself, who never missed a single meeting. And thus we come to the 4th view, which grants B.R. Ambedkar authorship of the preamble, not definitively or particularly, but by default. Given the ubiquity of Dr. Ambedkar's designation as chief architect of the Constitution, it seems to follow that he must also be the chief architect of it.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?